Imagine you're just buying a birthday gift for your mom, when suddenly a store manager points, yells, and calls the police, accusing you of stealing. That's exactly what happened to 15-year-old Marcus, until the moment his father walked in and stunned everyone in the room. This is the unbelievable story you don't want to miss. Step away from the counter. The sharp command sliced through the glittering jewelry store like a siren. A hush fell over the room so suddenly that even the hum of the display lights seemed to vanish. A mother holding her toddler froze mid-stride. A couple comparing engagement rings stiffened, their hands still clasped. 15-year-old Marcus Johnson jerked his head up, startled. A small velvet box rested in his palm, its deep blue fabric catching the warm spotlights that illuminated the rows of diamond necklaces. He'd been admiring one, something elegant for his mother's upcoming birthday. Now the box felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of the entire store's suspicion. He turned slowly toward the voice. Behind the gleaming glass counter stood the store manager, a woman in a perfectly tailored white blazer. Her blonde hair, immaculately styled moments ago, now framed a face tight with alarm. In her right hand she gripped a cell phone like a weapon, knuckles pale. Her eyes, wide and locked on Marcus, flicked nervously toward the door. "I said don't move," she repeated, louder this time, her voice edged with panic that crackled across the room. Marcus's heart thudded against his ribs. He blinked, trying to process the sudden shift from quiet browsing to public accusation. Just seconds ago he'd been carefully comparing chain lengths and thinking about how proud his mom would be when she opened her gift. Now every gaze in the store was a silent verdict, suspicion, fear, curiosity, all focused on him. The distant wail of a siren grew clearer, echoing through the mall corridor outside. Marcus realized with a jolt that the manager wasn't just threatening to call someone, she already had. The glass doors burst open and two uniformed police officers strode in, their polished shoes clicking sharply against the marble floor. Their eyes swept the room, landing on Marcus. Hands hovered over holsters, not drawn yet but ready. Shoppers instinctively stepped back, forming a wide circle around him. A few raised their phones, the soft clicks of cameras and the red glow of recording lights punctuating the silence. Marcus's fingers tightened around the velvet box. He felt rooted to the floor, a single island in a sea of cold stares. His throat tightened as questions raced through his mind. What just happened? Did someone think I stole something? Why? One of the officers, a tall man with a square jaw, spoke in a controlled but commanding tone. "Son, keep your hands where we can see them." Marcus obeyed, slowly lifting his hands until the velvet box was visible. I didn't," the words stuck. He swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything." The manager took a cautious step closer, phone still pressed to her ear as if she couldn't quite let go of her lifeline. "I saw him acting suspicious," she insisted, her voice trembling but firm. "He was lingering near the expensive cases, looking around like he was waiting for something." Marcus felt his cheeks burn. "I was looking for a necklace. For my mom's birthday," he said, his voice cracking under the weight of disbelief. The other officer, a woman with sharp eyes, glanced at the manager. "Ma'am, we're here now. Please stay calm." But her gaze remained on Marcus, assessing, wary. Time stretched. The sparkling displays around him blurred into a haze of gold and white light. Marcus's heart pounded in his ears, each beat louder than the last. He had never felt so exposed, so instantly judged. Somewhere behind the crowd, a child whimpered. The manager lowered her phone slightly, but her expression didn't soften. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what this 15-year-old would do next. The manager's words spilled out like a flood of suspicion. "He's been lurking around the diamond cases," she said sharply, pointing at Marcus as though her finger alone could prove guilt. "I watched him from the back room. I saw him palm something and hide it. Check his backpack, he has it in there." Gasps rippled through the store. A woman near the entrance shook her head and whispered to her companion. Someone else raised a phone higher, eager to capture every second of drama. The soft jingle of the overhead music felt strangely out of place, a cheerful melody clashing with the tension in the air. Marcus's chest tightened. "I didn't take anything," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. His throat felt dry, every word catching like gravel. The taller of the two officers stepped forward, his expression serious but not unkind. "Son," he said, lowering his tone, "let's see your bag, all right?" Slowly. Marcus swallowed hard. He wanted to shout that he was innocent, to explain he'd only been choosing a birthday gift for his mom. But he remembered what his dad had taught him about staying calm and respectful. With trembling hands, he slid the strap from his shoulder and offered the backpack. The female officer unzipped it carefully. A hush settled over the room so complete that Marcus could hear the faint buzz of the ceiling lights. One by one, she removed the contents: a scuffed math textbook, a spiral notebook with doodles along the margins, a pencil case, a phone charger coiled like a white snake. She set each item on the counter in plain view. Finally, she looked up at her partner and gave a tiny shake of her head. "It's clean." The manager's eyes narrowed. He must have hidden it. Check his pockets. Maybe he slipped it under his shirt. She folded her arms, as if certain the theft was only cleverly concealed. The male officer held up a hand, his voice firm. "Ma'am, please. We'll handle this. Let's keep things calm." But the accusation hung heavy in the room. Marcus felt every eye like a weight pressing on his shoulders. He could sense the judgment in the silence, strangers imagining him as a thief, a troublemaker, someone who didn't belong among velvet trays and diamond lights. He took a shaky breath. "I came here to buy a necklace," he said, a little louder this time, forcing the words through his tight throat. "For my mom. Her birthday's next week. I didn't touch anything except what I was looking at." The woman in the white blazer tilted her chin, skepticism etched across her face. "You expect me to believe that? You've been hovering around that case for 20 minutes. Customers don't usually do that unless they're up to something." Marcus wanted to disappear. He could feel the heat in his cheeks, a mixture of fear and humiliation. Around him, a few shoppers shifted uneasily. A father with a stroller muttered under his breath, "Poor kid," but no one stepped forward. The female officer carefully repacked the backpack and handed it back. "Here you go," she said quietly. "Nothing in there." The manager's lips pressed into a thin line. "Check his sleeves." He could have. "That's enough," the male officer interrupted, his tone sharper. "We have no evidence of a crime." Marcus clutched his bag to his chest, his pulse still racing. He felt the burn of unshed tears but refused to let them fall. All he'd wanted was to surprise his mom with a necklace she'd love. Instead, he'd become a suspect in front of a room full of strangers, his dignity picked apart like evidence on display. Marcus's hands trembled as he clutched his backpack. The velvet box he'd set down on the glass counter glimmered beneath the bright display lights, almost mocking him. Around him, the room remained thick with suspicion, even though the officers had found nothing. He glanced at the manager. Her arms were crossed tight, lips pressed together like a sealed vault. It was clear she wasn't convinced. Marcus felt a mix of anger and helplessness churn in his stomach. "They don't believe me. No matter what I say, they've already decided who I am." He thought of his dad. Strong. Calm. A man who always knew what to do when things went wrong. His father's voice echoed in memory, "If you ever feel unsafe, call me right away." Marcus inhaled sharply and reached for his phone. The male officer noticed. "Who are you calling, son?" "My dad," Marcus answered, voice shaky but determined. "He needs to know what's happening." The officer gave a brief nod. "Go ahead." Marcus's thumb hovered over the contact list for a split second before he tapped the familiar name, Dad. The ringing sounded impossibly loud in the hushed store. 1 ring. 2 rings. On the third, a deep, steady voice came through. "Marcus? Everything okay?" Hearing that voice steadied him. "Dad," Marcus's voice cracked. He swallowed hard, forcing the words out. "I'm at Gold and Grace Jewelry, at the mall." The manager called the police. They think I stole something. I didn't. I swear I didn't. A beat of silence. Then, calm but unmistakably firm, stay where you are, son. Don't argue with anyone. I'm on my way. The line clicked off. Marcus lowered the phone, his heart thumping with both relief and fear. His dad was coming. Somehow, that single fact gave him enough strength to stand a little taller. The manager raised an eyebrow, her voice dripping with doubt. Calling for backup, she asked, a thin smile curling at the corners of her mouth. Your father can explain why you were casing the store, I suppose. Marcus didn't answer. He simply slipped the phone back into his pocket. Around him, a few onlookers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Some of the earlier curiosities seemed to shift toward unease. Maybe they were beginning to wonder if they'd misjudged him. Minutes crawled by. The officers stood near the door, murmuring to each other, their radios occasionally crackling. The female officer glanced at Marcus now and then, her expression less guarded than before. The manager, however, paced behind the counter like a restless cat. This is taking too long, she muttered. He must have ditched it somewhere. Maybe he passed it to someone else before you arrived. The male officer finally sighed. Ma'am, we've already checked his belongings. There's no evidence of a theft. Evidence or not, she replied sharply, I know what I saw. Marcus's stomach tightened again, but he kept his eyes on the marble floor, replaying his father's instructions. Stay calm. Don't argue. The soft murmur of the mall outside drifted in, footsteps, the faint scent of cinnamon pretzels from a nearby stand. But inside the jewelry store, time felt suspended, stretched taut like a string about to snap. A young woman with a shopping bag finally broke the silence, whispering to a friend, this is ridiculous. The kid didn't do anything. Another shopper nodded, but no one dared speak louder. It was as if the entire store was holding its breath, waiting for something, or someone, to end the standoff. Marcus stared at the doorway, every second feeling longer than the last. He trusted his dad completely, but a flicker of worry nagged at him. How long will it take? What if they try to search me again before he gets here? Just when the tension felt unbearable, a sudden hush swept over the store as the automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. Someone had arrived. The sliding glass doors whispered open, letting in a faint rush of cool mall air. Every head turned. A tall figure strode inside with purposeful calm, the kind of entrance that needed no announcement. His shoulders were broad beneath a neatly pressed navy blue button-down. Sunlight from the mall corridor haloed him for a moment, catching the faint shine of a military-style badge clipped to his belt. Marcus felt a jolt of relief so strong it was almost dizzying. Dad. Commander David Johnson scanned the room in a single, commanding sweep. His gaze lingered for only a heartbeat on Marcus, just enough to confirm his son was safe, before it shifted to the officers and finally settled, unblinking, on the store manager. Who's in charge here? His voice was deep, measured, and unmistakably authoritative. It rolled through the tense silence like distant thunder. The taller officer stepped forward, almost instinctively standing straighter. Sir, we're handling. Commander David Johnson, he interrupted, flipping open a leather ID wallet with a practiced motion. The gold emblem of the United States Navy gleamed under the store lights. I'm chief of a Navy SEAL team, and Marcus is my son. Someone explain why he's surrounded by police officers and gawkers when he's done nothing wrong. The officers exchanged quick, uneasy glances. A few shoppers lowered their phones, suddenly aware they were filming something far bigger than a simple store dispute. Commander Johnson, sir, the male officer began carefully, we received a call about a possible theft. We arrived, searched his belongings, there was nothing. David's brow furrowed. Then why is he still standing here like a suspect? Before the officer could answer, the manager stepped forward, chin raised but voice wavering. I made the call. He was acting suspicious. Watching the diamond cases, looking over his shoulder. I saw him hide something. Commander Johnson's eyes locked on hers. They were steady and cold, the kind of gaze that didn't need to raise its volume to demand accountability. "Did you speak to my son before you called the police?" She faltered. "No, but..." "Did you see him take anything?" "Well, no, but..." "Then you based your decision on what, exactly?" His tone sharpened, each word landing like a precise strike. "The fact that he's a young black teenager in your store?" The woman's lips parted, but no words came out. Her face flushed pink under the bright lights. The quiet murmur of the watching crowd swelled into an almost tangible wave of disapproval. The female officer cleared her throat. "Commander, for the record, your son cooperated fully. We found nothing and were preparing to let him go." David gave a curt nod. "Thank you, officer. I appreciate your professionalism." He turned back to the manager, his voice low but firm enough to carry across the showroom. "But you owe him an apology. Today you humiliated a kid who came here to buy a gift for his mother. You called armed officers on a child because of an assumption." The manager swallowed hard, eyes darting toward the customers whose phones were still recording. Her posture sagged. "I'm sorry," she said at last, the words barely audible. Commander Johnson didn't gloat, didn't raise his voice. He simply placed a protective hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Let's go, son." Marcus felt the tension drain from his chest as they turned toward the door. The officers stepped aside respectfully. A path opened through the silent crowd, their expressions a mix of shame and quiet admiration. As the automatic doors slid shut behind them, the jewelry store seemed to exhale, the clinking of display lights the only sound left in their wake. The echo of the sliding doors lingered behind them as father and son stepped into the bustling mall corridor. The sounds of everyday life, footsteps, chatter, the faint music from a nearby clothing store, slowly replaced the tense silence of the jewelry shop. Marcus drew a shaky breath, the air finally feeling easier to pull into his lungs. Commander David Johnson kept a steady hand on Marcus's shoulder, guiding him toward a quiet seating area near a decorative fountain. Only when they were out of the immediate crowd did he pause. His calm presence radiated the same strength Marcus had known all his life, the kind of steady reassurance that could calm storms. "You okay, son?" David asked, crouching slightly to meet Marcus's eyes. Marcus nodded, but his voice betrayed him. "Yeah. I think so." His throat tightened, and the words tumbled out. "Dad, I didn't even touch anything. She just looked at me like I didn't belong there." "I know," David said softly. "I know you didn't do anything wrong. And you don't ever have to prove your worth to someone who judges you before they know you." Marcus blinked back the sting of tears. He tried to stay strong inside that store, but the memory of dozens of strangers staring at him, phones raised, whispers swirling, felt heavy. It was like everyone believed her. "Just because of how I look." David's jaw tightened, but his voice remained even. "People will sometimes let fear or prejudice guide their actions. That's not about you, it's about them. The important thing is that you kept calm, followed directions, and called me. You did everything right." Marcus managed a small, relieved smile. "You came so fast." "I'll always come fast," David said, the corners of his mouth softening. "That's my job as your dad, and as someone who stands up for what's right." For a moment they simply sat together, the fountain's gentle splash filling the space between words. The tension of the last hour slowly faded, replaced by a quiet understanding. Around them, shoppers hurried past, unaware of the lesson unfolding on a simple bench. After a while, Marcus glanced at the small shopping bag David carried, the one holding the velvet box and the necklace he had chosen before everything went wrong. "Do you think Mom will like it?" David chuckled, the sound warm and grounding. "She's going to love it. And she's going to love that you chose it yourself, no matter what happened today." Marcus let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Thanks, Dad, for everything." David squeezed his shoulder. "Remember, Marcus, never let someone else's ignorance define you. You know who you are. Stand tall, always." They rose together and began walking toward the parking lot, the bright mall lights casting long shadows behind them. The day had started as a simple birthday errand, but it ended with a memory neither of them would forget, a quiet but powerful reminder that respect must be earned through understanding, not assumptions, and that courage sometimes means simply standing with dignity when the world doubts you. If Marcus's story shocked you as much as it shocked that entire jewelry store, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss another powerful, real-life drama. Share this video to remind everyone, respect is earned through understanding, not assumptions.